Did. Oh, look, it started.
Countdown.
Oh no. No pressure. Bloody hell.
Yeah, come on, Kirby. Sort your life out.
This countdown's too long.
Oh, I don't know. Oh my God, is it still going?
Mostly a minute long, but I've timed it. It's more like 1 minute 20.
Well,
Dominic,
that's fine. I can keep looking then at everyone's places.
can I just say hello to Dominic at DG? He's a man. He is the man. When it comes to taxis, he's your boy.
What are the chances of Paul talking over the last 5 seconds again?
What? As if I'd do that sort of thing.
You did. It's documented in history as well.
How much time's left now?
Oh, you're almost there.
You're in the window.
And go.
Oh, we didn't talk over this time.
Oh.
Well, it's because I'm too busy. Too busy stressing.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the EV Cafe. Today we'll be discussing our love affair with electric vehicles, because you could say that February is the month of love, Valentine's, Pancake Day, but it is actually an extra special one for me because tomorrow it's my little girl's first birthday.
Hey.
So I guess you could call her a true coronial. So the month that was, it was also the start of Lent last week. So if you haven't already given up fossil fuels, then maybe this is your opportunity, your reason to start. Because according to David Attenborough's very stark warning on climate change that you might have seen this week, it could within a lifetime destroy entire cities and societies and face the collapse of everything. So a real stark message from David Attenborough. If you haven't watched his message, then I urge you to do that, but after the show, of course. My coffee I'm drinking today, it's got approximately 5 milligrams of CO2. Splash of milk made it 50 milligrams, and a full latte is about close to 500 milligrams. So it's just good to be mindful that it's not just mobility you need to consider when reducing your carbon footprint, also food and everything else. So last but by no means least, I've got to mention this. We finally heard from Mr. Johnson himself regarding the easing of lockdown. Hooray! The end is in sight, and if all goes well, then we will be able to meet all our members for the first time at the ITT Hub in Farnborough for what is shaping up to be an amazing show. That starts on the 30th of June, which is literally 2 weeks after the final stage in the roadmap. We will, of course, email you with further information in due course. But speaking of roadmaps, we have heard we've heard the roadmap to zero virus, but what is your roadmap to zero emissions? And if you don't know, then don't worry, because you are in good hands today, because we at the EV Cafe, our special guests, our members, are all here to provide knowledge, advice, and most importantly, answer your questions. So you can start that journey today. And as the theme of today's show is all about love EVs, I just want to take this opportunity to say on behalf of the EV Cafe team and I, that we truly appreciate and love every single one of you and are eternally grateful for your support you have shown us over the last year and the help you've given us to build this truly wonderful EV community. We will strive to make the cafe the community for all, including EV enthusiasts, EV skeptics, and those who are just EV curious. And if you ever need to talk to any of us at any time, for whatever reason, then you can reach us via our email, which is at hello@evcafe.org. Yes, we're always happy to talk about EV, but if it's totally unrelated and you just need someone to talk to, a friend, then please do not hesitate to get in touch. So that's enough of me waffling on. Let's see what's on today's menu for loving EVs. For starters, we have our very own Mr. Kirby, who will be taking us through the lineup of electric cars that are on the market today. We will soon be followed by Charlotte Smith from EV Thank You, the teenage campaign for children's health. If you drive an EV, then you might have received one of her lovely thank you cards. Then we will hear from Mr. EV himself from DPD, Olly Craughan, who heads up the DPD Corporate Social Responsibility. We will then take a short break for Sarah's amazing news round. Looking forward to that, approximately 1 o'clock. Then on to the second half of the show, where Richard Grigsby will be sharing something a little bit different, but equally as important, especially for deliveries in urban environments. electric assist cargo bikes with his company Icne. And last but by no means least is Adrian Felton, who will be talking about the complete opposite to Richard: buses, HEVs, trucks, and charging them. But before we kick off with the show and this amazing lineup of guests, we will give them all 5 minutes to present, and then we'll go to the mailroom of the show, which is approximately 15 minutes after each presentation for questions and to talk to you. So please use the Q&A tab to ask those questions. There's no such thing as a silly one. Feel free to use the chat box throughout the session to talk with us and the rest of the audience, but ignore it if it becomes too distracting, especially during the presentations. We always want to hear from you, so a quick hello and where you're from would really be appreciated. And the more questions, the better. So keep us nice and busy. Keep our guests nice and busy as well. The last rule is just for the special guests and anyone joining the panel. If you want to talk, then please raise your hand on camera. This is just to avoid crossing over each other, as we may have quite a lot of people on the screen at any one time. And so let's begin with introductions and talking to the sofa panelists. You all know me by now. My name's Johnny Berry. My day job is working for a company called Electrification, a group Renault company, and I help fleets with full end-to-end solutions for electrifying their fleets. And the rest of the E-Vengers. So who wants to go first? John Curtis, do you want to go first and introduce yourself?
Why not? Hello, I'm John Curtis. I'm an EV evangelist. I'm a sustainability marketeer. So I just let people know all about the great things that are going on in the world, work for multiple clients to really promote what we're doing here, because it makes a difference. And that's the reason why I get out of bed in the morning, is to clean up air, make transport better, use renewable energy, and show the love.
Sarah, you're up next on my notes.
Oh, lucky me. I'm too busy typing to everyone in the chat box. Don't ignore the chat box. That's a great bit of the show. So thank you. I am Sarah Sloman and I work for Anstey, who is a full suite law firm in the energy and infrastructure team. And I love this show because we can all talk openly and honestly about our challenges, our roadblocks, and how we're going to reach that net zero target. We need to collaborate and learn from one another. So it's great that we can all join together on a monthly basis and swap notes and talk in a free way where you're not going to be judged. So we pretend to be all happy and light, but we do deal with some serious topics. So anything you need, we're here for you.
Thanks, Sarah. Next up is Sam Clarke, who is also the timekeeper of the show today, ensuring our guests keep to their 5 minutes.
Yeah, which I'm also rubbish at doing. got the massive clock, but not very good at using it. I'll do my best. Hi, everybody. I'm Sam Clarke. I'm the Chief Vehicle Officer for GridServe Sustainable Energy, which builds massive forecourts and solar farms and stuff around the country. I also used to run my own business as a last mile delivery company in central London, with a fully electric fleets, driving EVs for a couple of decades, and just love everything about EV. And I love these guys, and it's just fantastic to be here now once a month, I believe, and just talk a bit about EVs generally, and have a bit of fun in the process. So not quite as dry as some other webinars. So hopefully you guys enjoy it, and look forward to hearing our contributors for today.
Excellent, thanks, Sam. And last but by no means least is Mr. Acronym Policeman, Mr. Kirby, #VanGeek, who will also be kicking off the show. So over to you, Paul.
I'll be kicking off the show.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, that's good. We'll come on to that because I'll find out what exactly I'm kicking it off with in about 30 seconds. But I am an evangelist. And there you go, you see, took the prompt from John there, and in utter chaos, quite frankly, and I'm all green again, apparently. Well, anyway, yes, I'm green to the core. I have no idea what's going on. Too many webinars in one day. Thank you, Sam. I can't see that, but I'm sure you're just getting the evidence to enjoy it at my mercy later. But anyway, so vans, that's what I'm here to talk about, and mental health. And honestly, anybody's free afterwards, I think I probably need a chat.
Bless him. Bless his little
That's it.
heart.
That's it.
You're not green, so
Thanks,
you
Paul.
look perfect.
Yeah, well,
perfect.
perfect's a bit strong.
You look perfect.
You are luminous green on my screen, Paul.
So Paul, are you going to kickstart with some sort of presentation update, or do you want to go over and interview Charlotte first? Up to
Well,
you.
no. I can talk about that because what we agreed was that I would talk about vans, and I'm ready to talk about vans. And is that I presume because the chaos has meant everybody I'm a little late, so I didn't get the preamble that I usually get.
We're back to back with
Sorry,
webinars at the moment, aren't you, Paul?
little bit, but anyway, it's all good. So I wanted to talk about the world of electric vans and 2021 because I love electric vans. Is that a love? Is that a love heart? Looks sort of similar. I love electric vans. I've even got one on my drive at the moment. I love spending time in them actually. And 2020 was a good year, and it was all about laying the foundations. Not many electric vans got registered, 5,266. And you could probably name most of the companies that bought those. They were spread across 4 or 5 models, so very little availability. But it did get better towards the back end of the year. And so in 2021, I'm really confident that we'll see testing, we'll see trials, we'll see CSR policies, and we're going to hear about that clearly from the head of CSR, Olly, from DPD, which will be brilliant. And there's some great targets in place, and companies I really believe are going to be setting targets specifically around vans. And why vans particularly? Well, because one van is, 1 in 10 of the actual vehicle market, but in real terms, it's 30% of the emissions in inner cities and in air quality. And we're going to hear from Charlotte in a short while. And I'm sure she's going to be telling us a little bit about air quality and how it impacts. And over this next year, we're going to see a number of new entrants to the market. We saw some new ones last year. We saw the Renault Zoe come in. Johnny Berry, well done, yay for Renault. But we also saw a great launch from the Vivaro E, which really got a lot of take up, a lot of interest, and much more interest this year as well. And that really was the clear standout winner from 2020. And arguably PSA Group could be the standout winners in 2021 as well, with fully electrifying their fleet. So there could be a small, medium, and large van, which would be the first manufacturer to do that, to have a vehicle available. So watch out for that, everybody, because the large vans have been tricky. There's a couple on the market now, and the PSA Group are getting the Relay and the Boxer, and probably the Movano as well. And then the little small van at the end of the year in the Combo Belingo Partner Brotherhood of Van. There you go. So there was 14 vans available by the end of 2020, where we started at 5. And I think, similarly, we're going to go down that journey. We'll go from 14. I don't know how many. But what I do know is that the market has been dominated by the big players at the moment. It's been dominated by CEOs making big declarations, commitments to the clean van commitment, all of which I really applaud. I think it's brilliant that, van fleets, upwards of 40,000 vans are committed to completely electrifying by 2028, I think it is, through the clean van commitment, which we've talked about on this webinar. So that's been fantastic. And, seeing smaller companies learning from all of the stuff, because that's really how we go forward, right? We've always talked about it, banged on about it, education. Data is going to come out from these trials. Data is going to impact us and help us move forward. So listen, I'm not going to ramble on too much more, but the reality is test and learn. And Kent County Council, well done. Leeds County Council, well done. Coventry County Council, well done, for putting vans, with the support of Highways England, putting electric vans on the road for people to try for free for a week. So if you live in and around those areas, go for it, go test, go learn. But the bottom line is #GetStarted. That is going to be my new hashtag for this year, #GetStarted, because if you can just start, you'll learn and you'll begin to experience the benefits and the beauty of driving electric. And that's all we're going to say about that for now, because we've got the wonderful Charlotte Smith.
Hi.
So welcome to the EV Cafe, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Yeah. So well, bear with me, talk amongst yourselves for a minute. I'm just going to go and get my phone. 1 second.
Should be able to manage that.
Well, that was interesting. Off he goes. He's got a big part. It's your moment, Paul, and then whoosh, gone.
Disappears.
Yeah, he didn't mention Maxus, interestingly enough, the Brotherhood of Van. So, oh, he's back.
I'm back. Yes, no, the Maxus is a great product. The large van, small van, very good. Can't find my phone, so Charlotte, we're just gonna chat.
Okay.
So Charlotte, thank you so much for joining us. The reason that I got to know you was because you were kind enough to send an EV thank you card to Vanarama.
Yeah.
Because we're pressing on with that mission of getting electric vehicles on the road. So how did all this get started? Where did it start for you?
So I was in year 5 at around age 10, and I had to do a science paper for school on changes, and I decided to do the science paper on the change between ICE, internal combustion engine, and electric. And throughout this process, I not only learned a lot about electric vehicles in general, but also about the benefits they have on children's health. And I wanted to thank those pioneering electric vehicle drivers for helping to protect children's health. So I came up with my EV thank you card, and it says, thank you for choosing to drive an all-electric vehicle. You've helped children like myself to breathe easier and avoid long-term illnesses such as stunted lung development, brain illnesses, cancer. Thank you. And it originally said age 11, and there was no social media on it because I wanted to highlight that Charlotte, age 11, could be any child. It wasn't just like me or just like one specific person. It could represent all children, so it could make it more personal for people.
Wow, I mean that's brilliant, and I love the fact the energy around, you know, kind of getting that card and getting out there, because I think you've done quite a lot of miles, haven't you, on this little campaign?
Yeah, around 100,000 miles right now. My campaign has been going on for around 3 years. It'll be 3 years in April, and it's been a lot of adventures.
And so how many cards have you given out so far?
Around 3,600 at this point. In Oslo, I did 513. So I went to Oslo in my first year of campaigning, and that was great. And I got 513 out in 36 hours. I also went to California relatively recently before COVID, and I got out 587, I believe, and that was in around a week. And also, which was super great, when I went to California, I got a private factory tour of Tesla Fremont factory, and that was amazing. That was super exciting. Yeah, and then also I've gone up and down the UK, excluding Northern Ireland. I'd love to go to Northern Ireland. That's like definitely on the places to go. I'd like to travel like all across the world, because I feel that wherever there's children, my campaign message needs to be heard, because like we're all at like different levels in where EVs are at. So I just want to keep raising awareness.
It's fantastic. What's been the biggest challenge for you? Because I mean, there must have been some challenging days or times or events. What's been the biggest challenge?
I'd say events for me are super exciting, because it just means like more exposure, more talking to people. Obviously, I want to keep traveling around the world, as I said, and continuing to thank electric vehicle drivers. But like we like kind of stuck to the mainland the most of the time, and that's like quite difficult to like reach even more electric vehicle drivers. So for me, if like funding was available or some way to continue and taking my campaign abroad, thanking even more electric vehicle drivers, because like I've thanked many electric vehicle drivers in the UK, and I'm super excited to take my campaign elsewhere.
Cool. So if you could, I'm going to pin you down now, what one highlight, I've held two fingers up there strangely, but what one highlight would you call out from your experience so far?
That's a difficult one. Obviously every card I've ever given out has been like a huge highlight, because it's like, I'm just going to kind of generalize that a little bit. So when I give a card to someone, just anyone, and like you're there to see their reaction, it's like first like what you're trying to sell me a bit, because like you're not expecting someone to walk over and go give you a little leaflet thing, and then it's like kind of unsure, and then you read it, there's a second of just like, and then it just all slots into place. And a lot of the time, especially if they're a parent, they're just like emotion hits them, and it's just really emotional for both parts. And it's just like, it's kind of like a really loving environment, and you just feel like so, I don't know, mutually happy about it, and you just go away feeling super excited and super like warm.
Wow, that is, I mean, I must admit, I didn't expect that. I thought you know, that was, you were going to just kind of avoid and just give a nice general thing without saying one particular thing, but actually that moment of recognition between the one person, that this is just an altruistic, a free giving experience, you know, a sharing of thanks for somebody that's done something that is perceived as good by you, is amazing. I know John Curtis particularly would love to hear about your experience with the Morris JE. So perhaps, yes, perhaps if we have time in the Q&A, John can ask you about that, because that I know will be, he's very excited about that van. So Charlotte, listen, I want to say, what is the one thing that we can help you with? But I think you might have touched that on that already, in terms of being able to raise your profile, make some money. But how would it be?
Yeah, it is funding. I do have Patreon, GoFundMe, and also PayPal open, all under @EV Thank You. And like kind of just like getting a little bit more funding to take my campaign elsewhere. But also in terms of like, either it's in that country or even still in the UK, because there's plenty more EVs I can thank in the UK as well. Like having an electric vehicle provided, or just like loaned to us for like, say, a week. And then a bit like I had last year, I had a Jaguar I-Pace for a week, an MG ZS EV, I believe a Zoe as well, the newer Zoe, and they were all super exciting to have. I got plenty of cards out, really good, and just continue getting out my campaign.
Fantastic. Well, Charlotte, you know that you've got a vehicle from us here at Vanarama. You know that we're going to sort that out once the lockdown's over. But you know, there's many people on here that have that within their gift to do that simple thing for you. So we must mention Stephen, I think he signs off as your proud father, Charlotte's proud father, who I know is going to be doing the driving, because clearly you're a little bit too young to be doing the driving just yet. But that's really exciting. Thank you so much. I'm sure we should open up now for a bit of Q&A. Is that, I think that's the plan.
Over to the
wonderful questions.
Cafe mailboy.
Oh, but Sarah has a question first. Go for it.
Have you read these comments? There's some fantastic comments. I nearly said the same as Ian Muller. We've got a Greta for EV. I never knew. Brilliant. Same. Absolutely same. The whole time you were speaking, I was like, yeah, Greta. She's great, but move over, yeah?
Better than Greta. Better than Greta.
Greta is great, but Charlotte is better. Thank you so much.
Charlotte?
Yeah.
I've got a question for, well, actually, it's an offer. So in the Q&A box, I get lots of messages that I read out now. And one of them is from Andrew Pierce. And Andrew is from LEVL and Geotab, who are big friends of ours. And Andrew has said he would be interested in hearing more about sponsoring you, what's required, and how can we help to drive the campaign. So once you're done chatting, it might be a really good plan to find Andrew Pierce in the list of people, the participants, and send him a message. Find him on LinkedIn or other social media, or we'll put you in touch with him.
Yeah, I'll do that, John. I'll send Stephen.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay.
Thank you, because I think we may get one or two people interested in supporting your campaign, not least us. And you know, you're a wonderful ambassador for everything that is right about e-mobility and low emission vehicles. We just can't thank you enough. What do you think, if you had a magic wand and you were able to take away all of the myths and ridiculous stories that you hear about EVs, what would it be? What would be the one thing that you would say is just rubbish and we need to challenge?
It's a difficult one.
We hear range is an issue, that an awful lot of time people say, oh, you know, can't go very far in an EV. Is that true?
There is one thing, I wouldn't say necessarily, because the infrastructure is getting better day by day. But also one other thing that I'd like to just highlight is recently I was walking down just like a nearby street of mine, and a charger was being fitted near some flats, and like that. And also you have similar in London, you have some, you know, those street lights that also are chargers. And it's like, it's like, even if you don't necessarily have like a house or like a drive or like a place that is specifically for you to plug in, first you have like plenty of infrastructure around and nearby you, but also all the time people are getting chargers fitted near like areas where there is like flats or apartments, so that you can still access chargers wherever you are. So it's like you can always buy an EV, like whether you're in a house, an apartment, it kind of just fits in, and it's constantly getting better all the time as well.
You're quite right. Now then, Sam had his hand in the air.
I did. It was more of an invitation, really, and just a statement to say, Charlotte, you're amazing. You're a massive influence to us. I think, you know, as a young person who's so passionate about EVs, it's amazing to see, because we often talk about education. We talk about trying to reach out further and wider, which you're doing as well. But to get it from the youth, you know, it's just wonderful. So well done. Keep it up. And the invitation, which I think your dad already knows about, but, you know, we'd love to have you at the GridServe Electric Forecourt, so you can thank tons of people at the same time. So obviously, once we get rid of the lockdown and we're back to some degree of normality, it'd be great if you and your dad could come down and we can do like a bit of bulk thank yous to all the people that turn up and charge. I think that'd be really great if you're up for it.
Yeah, that'd be super exciting. One other thing about the funding thing is also, even if like you just donate £1 and it's not like that much, and like even if it's just like a singular payment, like if any parent wanted to like help contribute towards my campaign, it goes such a long way, like in thanking electric vehicle drivers and really getting the message out there too, raising awareness, because like the bigger the campaign gets, the more people that know about it, the bigger profile it can get, meaning that like people saying governments or people that make major changes for the country and also internationally could see a different side of it, being like, yeah, this is also for children's health. This is like not only just because of like money and things like that, but also it affects humans every day, you know? So that's kind of like another section to it that I want to highlight.
Charlotte, you're so right. And, you know, we cite the statistic 40,000 people die every year as a result of air quality. And I don't know that we get the impact of that. And it's so powerful coming from somebody like yourself, so young and really campaigning on that particular point alone, that makes a tremendous difference. Especially last year, sadly, we had the first death directly attributed to air quality, and that was a young person as well. So I think it's really, really powerful. We've also had another invitation from the ITT Hub, or somebody mentioned, I don't think it was, if Mark Griffin was there, but ITT Hub is an event, is our first physical event. And hopefully on June the 31st, which might be a school day.
My school is quite like excited about the campaign as well. They haven't done too much in it, but also they like are super pro the idea of my campaign. So often what will happen if I go do something during the day, I'll just have a little bit of extra homework this evening to catch up on. So it's not like a major issue. So
we may be able to work that in. So you can come and join us for the day at the ITT Hub EV Cafe Live.
But I just correct you there. The 31st of June doesn't exist.
Oh, it's the end of June. I'm sorry. Yeah. Listen.
30th of June to the 1st of July. That's correct.
Yeah.
John, can you ask me that question that's in the Q&A tab, please?
One question.
Yeah.
Can I ask you?
Yeah. Can you ask me that?
Now, so we've got a world-leading superstar in our midst, giving us her inner thoughts, and you want to talk about the Renault Zoe? Go away. Right, before you go, Charlotte, and I will ask this question of Johnny in just a second, I want to say, if I may, that your age is a sideshow. You are a genius. Not only have you taken very complex messages and made them really simple to understand, but you do so with passion. And this event is all about the love that we have for EVs. And I think I speak for everybody when I say that we absolutely love what you do, love your passion, love EVs, and we will be seeing you many times, I hope, because you are quite simply outstanding.
Thank you. That means a lot, because the campaign does take quite a lot of effort. It's either school or campaign it most of the time. And like I am extremely passionate about it, so it's not like it's a bit of a drag. It's amazing, and it's amazing to meet new people all the time. Obviously with COVID it's a little bit different, but like with like handing out EV thank you cards and just sending posties to them too, because I also send EV thank you cards to companies, and with Vanarama as well, and you get such a great reaction, and it's just like super heartwarming, and it's like super enjoyable.
Question for you quickly before you go. Ian Muller has just asked in the Q&A box, do you have a website or social media page so that we can help to promote you?
I do have a Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and I also have a YouTube channel, and my YouTube, and all of that is under @EVThankYou. My YouTube channel has been a little bit slow, but I do have a lot of my EV thank you activities. It's constantly getting better. Dad's working on his editing, great, amazing. And also like it's super like, it's kind of just like updating on everything that I do. So posties. I also have a new series that is just starting, that is a guide to EVs, and it's actually aimed for ICE vehicle drivers. So that like if they're interested, they can just look at the very basics. So it's the basics guide, and it's kind of just like charging, and also mentioning that bit about how you can still charge even if you live in an apartment, and also multiple different things about just like things that people might immediately question when they're thinking about getting an EV.
We'll put all your details on the EV Cafe page on LinkedIn so that people can access them. One thing I would say to you is that, you know, I was just talking about you being just out of this world. Mark Griffin has just sent a message to us. Now, Mark is running the ITT Hub, this event that Paul got wrong, on the 30th of June to the 1st of July in Farnborough. How would you like to meet the astronaut, Tim Peake? Mark will make that happen.
Mark, I'd quite like to as well. That's
Get
all right.
lost. So if we can organise everything and get Tim and you together at the EV Cafe, at the ITT Hub, we will do that. Okay, so we'll talk afterwards and we'll talk to your dad and make sure that it all happens. Mark, that's uncommonly decent. Thank you, my friend.
Yeah, top man.
That would be amazing. Yeah, thank you so much. Even if it's like any contributions, even if it's not monetary, towards my campaign, just raising awareness, it is really helpful. And obviously, like we're all trying to work towards the same outcome, which is like pure zero emission, helping to protect children's health. Also, planet and children's health works together, and it's just like a real passion of mine, and it's super exciting to see where it goes.
I'll tell you what is exciting. Tim Peake's just messaged me to say he's really excited to meet Charlotte Smith.
Really?
You know, rub shoulders with stars.
I just want to say thank you so much, Charlotte. Check out the messages. You have plenty of fans, it would seem. So keep up the good work. Keep fighting the good fight. But now it's time to welcome Mr. Olly Craughan from DPD onto the show. So Olly, you there? Welcome to the EV Cafe.
Come to us, Olly.
Oh, come on, Olly.
Try and follow that, Olly.
Earth to Olly. Here we go.
Oh,
Here
sorry. I just have to say, Charlotte, amazing. Well done. All the things that you're doing. It's fantastic. Really, really good.
So we'll have you back on shortly, Charlotte, for the last round of Q&A. But in the meantime, over to you, Olly.
Can I share my screen, Johnny? Is that?
Yeah. Got it.
Tell me when you're ready, Johnny, and I'll Ollie even, and I'll get the timer ready for you.
Can everyone see my screen? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Right, start the clock, Sam.
All right. Oh.
Has he dropped out, is he?
Oh no.
Let's stop the clock.
He's eating into his time.
Oh.
I'm already impressed though, because there wasn't a single DPD logo on the first slide, which was quite cool. Oh, he's back.
Coming back, don't worry. I've not seen this presentation before. I'm looking forward to this one.
Guys, I'm back.
Hi.
I'm back. Technical issue. Sorry, I do apologise, everyone.
And that's time up, Ollie. So
yeah, thanks, Sam.
Really nice to meet you.
you don't work for Newt anymore. You don't have to be so nasty. Okay.
Yeah, touche. I'll give you that.
So, guys, look, I'm going to explain DPD's journey in sustainability. It's not purely EV. Okay. Over a year ago, pre-COVID, in a time that we have to cast, to happier times, we changed our strategy and added a fourth box to incorporate our ambitions to be the UK's leader in sustainability. And by doing that, that means that it's not just my department in corporate social responsibility, it's in everyone's DNA in the organisation. And in my history in DPD, I've been an operator, and I have to tell you that the guys on the front line delivering these parcels really want to transition over to EVs. They used to ask me when I was a site manager, when's the next one being delivered? When's the next one being delivered? They want to be part of this journey, everyone in the business. And with that, we launched our dedicated website showing everyone the journey. So if you haven't been on it, please visit green.dpd.co.uk. It's updated regularly. It has live stats. We have delivered over 1.4 million parcels on our EV fleet so far this year, and they're updated all the time. And our journey started from, in 2018, we only had 34 electric vehicles. In 2019, we finished with 149. And in 2020, we moved through a challenging year through COVID and large parcel increases in volumes to over 700 at the end of the year. And I'm pleased to say that we've ordered additional vehicles and we'll have a fleet of approximately 1,500 by October this year. So huge growth, very ambitious. If we could run faster, we would. If we could be 100%, that would be done. Our current fleet, it has numerous vehicles. The predominant vehicle, though, at the moment is the Nissan ENV due to its availability, its cost, and it served a really good purpose in our urban logistics innovations, delivering small parcels to our B2C customers. However, we need to collect parcels, and with a cubic capacity of just shy of 5 cubic meters, we need that bigger vehicle. We need the 3.5-ton electric vehicle. The 3.5-ton van is the workhorse of any fleet. And last year we purchased 100 MAN ETGEs that were shipped over to the UK and transferred to right-hand drive. They weren't manufactured right-hand drive, so we had to have that done. They are on fleet now, and we have ordered another 500 3.5-ton electric vehicles from another manufacturer, and we will be going public soon with that announcement. I think Paul might have mentioned it before earlier in the call who they are. So that will enable us to have a huge fleet, the biggest parcel carrier EV fleet in the UK. And just to put things into perspective, last year we delivered 11.2 million parcels emissions-free on our EV fleet. And in 2019, we only did, I say only, but 1.3 million parcels. So you can see the growth, you can see our ambition growing. And towards the end of last year, in October, we launched our Vision 25-25-25 strategy. We're going to deliver 25% of our volume by 2025 via zero emissions EVs. And that will be over 100 million parcels delivered throughout the country in 25 cities, delivered zero emissions, covering about 25% of the UK population. So huge ambition, industry leading. No one else has even touched on anything in this scale. So as I said, 1.3 million delivered, 11.2. I'm looking at 2021, around 20 million parcels via our EV fleet. and by the end of 2025, 100 million. Probably even more knowing DPD, because we don't run a marathon, we sprint one, and I'm sure we will be pushing forward for even more volume, zero emissions. But it's not just about EVs. I know this is the EV Cafe, but you're all, you know, sustainable, conscious, and really pushing for a better world to live in. And all of our sites, 84 sites across the UK, are all powered by renewable energy, 100%. We also install solar in our sites as well, and looking for battery storage. We've looked at the plastic bags that we provide, and now, you know, since last year, they're made out of 80% reclaimed material from agriculture, and they're 100% recyclable. Sadly, some local councils do not recycle them, but they are recyclable, and on our website it shows you a link of how to recycle those appropriately. We've looked at paper and reducing that also. And our Hub 5 opened up towards the end of last year to ensure that we could deliver just amazing volumes, you know, over 2 million parcels in total on our busiest day around Black Friday. And we've opened our Hub 5, but we've actually installed over 7,000 solar panels, which creates enough energy to deliver 3.9 million parcels emissions free, which I'm sure you can imagine is absolutely outstanding. Tomorrow I'll be talking another event called Breathe Easy. We have launched an air quality monitoring program. Last summer in central London, we installed 100 sensors on our vehicles and 20 fixed sensors on our pickup shop network. The fixed location sensors have been located near schools, or as close to schools as possible, in play areas, because we know the impact of poor air quality is even worse to younger, underdeveloped lungs, okay? So we are taking measurements. Those sensors take a reading every 12 seconds, feedback to a dashboard, and we're providing that information for free to local government and academic institutions, so they can look at the impacts, the hotspots, and make changes based on scientific data. And later this year, hopefully in the coming months, we will be rolling out these sensors in Birmingham, Leeds, Manchester, Glasgow, and Cardiff. We will have, in the next couple of months, over 420 sensors taking readings every 12 seconds. So that will be over 1.5 million readings of air quality a day that we will upload to our database and provide to those that need it and can use it. This information is ideal for where clean air zones are being put in place, where they can see pre and post impacts of those, and potentially even where to extend those clean air zones. So really useful data. We're launching Relove with one of our main customers, ASOS. That is a circular economy initiative to collect old used clothes. 350,000 tons of clothing goes into landfill in the UK. We're trying to get that to charities. So you can opt via the DPD app to do a Relove donation and choose one of those 5 charities on the screen at the moment. Or you could select a randomised and it go to them. But again, it's avoiding landfill waste and being reused and reloved and helping charities. And obviously last year they suffered due to all the closures. It's not just about this, and this is something Charlotte could log on to our website and apply for an eco-fund donation towards EV Thank You. And again, if Paul or any other member of the EV Cafe can pass on my details, that'd be fantastic. The Eco Fund is accessed via our website. Again, it's a circular economy initiative. We gather our waste, shrink wrap and pallets in our hubs. We bundle them up, sell them on to break them down and create new shrink wrap. So again, it's a circular economy initiative. And that revenue doesn't go in our pockets, it goes into our Eco Fund. And you can go on our website, apply for up to a £2,000 donation to any eco or sustainability initiative. So predominantly schools have done that, startups and local community projects. And we've donated over 200,000 just in 2020 to all of those projects. And with the Eco Fund, we've also donated to Wareham Forest with Forestry England. Sadly, last year, there's a huge fire that wiped out the forest, and we've donated £40,000 to replant nearly 80,000 trees. And everyone likes something tangible to say, that's 41 football pitches worth of trees to everyone, okay?
Running out of time, Ollie, sorry.
It's okay, Sam. And just, you know, last year we handed every single staff member a reusable metal bottle to reduce plastics and installed refill stations in all of our sites, rapid refill stations. And they take a reading. We have so far saved 750,000 plastic bottles in our business. So as you can see, it's not just about EV and decarbonisation of fleet. That's a huge part of what we have to do as a business, but it does not stop there. Thank you, guys. And apologies for the technical issues.
Okay, Ollie, thanks for sharing that. Well done to you and the DPD team. Truly awesome work, and not just on the fleet side either. So truly inspiring. Would you mind sharing the Relove, the Project Breathe Easy, Eco Fund, and all that kind of stuff onto the chat box and LinkedIn pages? Because I'm sure, like me, we'd all like to read more about it. Ollie, and you know, I appreciate you've only got 5 minutes today. So I saw, Sam, did you have your hand up? Because we are getting a lot of questions in our very own EV Cafe mailroom, although John Curtis isn't very sustainable, not as sustainable as DPD.
Yeah, I did. I just wanted to say, Ollie. Yeah, I just want to say, Ollie, you know, we've spoken a lot over the years, and obviously, as you alluded to before, we were competitors once upon a time, but those numbers are incredible. They really are, and there's no denying it. You know, and there's, you know, it took me 10 years to deliver 10 million parcels, and you've done more than that in a year. You know, that to me put something into perspective in terms of where you were when we were competitors and where you've got to now is just incredible. So, you know, well done. There's so much, you know, being a bit critical, not of you, but there's so much greenwash, as we like to call it, out there, whereby, you know, people are talking a good game, not necessarily delivering it. And by all of those statistics that you've just done, and I gave you way more than 5 minutes because A, I'm rubbish at keeping time, and secondly, it was really interesting, so I didn't want to stop you. But it's really
one point I didn't do, and I know this can be seen in a quite cynical way sometimes, every parcel we deliver is actually carbon neutral, because what we can't change, we actually offset. So the HGV fleets that we can't sadly move to electric at the moment, or hydrogen, you know, we are going to biomethane, which is obviously about 80% less CO2 emissions than diesel. You know, we do offset as well. So everything is actually carbon neutral. Thank you.
Sarah?
Yeah.
Me? Yay. No, you say everything, it's all in everyone's DNA at the organisation, but I think you've probably inspired quite a few organisations today to follow suit. So how would you get that senior buy-in that's required to make these huge and fundamental and progressive changes?
I think so. Look, Dwayne McDonald, our CEO, is just an absolute, you know, visionary. I think you put it in your mission statement, your strategy, or whatever each company wants to call it. Everyone then understands how important it is in the organisation. By doing that, it brings it to everyone's attention. If you just talk about it, you know, it just doesn't get recognition. This is in the heart and soul of DPD. And we want to be leaders. You know, Sam's been on the rough end of it with DPD in the past, and he knows that we will not stop. You know, we want to be the leaders. I would say we are the leaders in sustainable delivery. You know, and we just have that hunger, you know, to really push forward. So really, people need to plant it in the everyday, you know, workings of an organisation. You know, that's the only way to do it. And talk's cheap. You can see that we're not just talking about it, and we're not just talking about vehicles either. We're talking about everything.
And Ollie, it's interesting to see that you guys are doing it with my beloved vans. and it's easy, right, to just stick on a load of Teslas and Polestars and ID3s, and everybody goes, oh, look at this. But this is where really the rubber meets the road, and I love the link to air quality. And I've stuck this picture up in the background because obviously you just heard Charlotte. That is a picture of one of her thank you cards on one of your vans. So I just thought I'd mention that might help her case when she applies for some funding. But what's been the key to driving it forward in such a difficult area on the vehicle side?
Look, there are challenges. I can't say that it's all rosy. Charging infrastructure scares the hell out of me. These vehicles, you say about range anxiety. With cars, the average car journey is 8 miles a day, and not people who drive a diesel or petrol car don't have a petrol pump stuck in their driveway. You don't need, you've got that sort of aspect. With the vehicles, typically we're home charging because our drivers, what we call owner drivers, they're the best in the business, they're service providers. With the Nissan, because of its size, that can fit on a driveway. When you start talking about 3.5 ton vehicles, that becomes harder and harder. And also the length of time that it takes to charge. So we have obviously £350 OZEV grant still. And we pay £350 towards a home charger. We work with PodPoint as our supplier, and we pay for that. So our owner drivers typically don't have to pay a penny towards a home charger. However, when you go to London, obviously people typically don't have off-street parking. So we have chargers in depots. With our Vision 25, we're really rolling out an ambitious plan to fit 22 kilowatt chargers plus on our sites, and a number of them because of the fleet. But we need more public charging solutions, really do. Quicker, faster. I think the government needs to put more money into it. And there needs to be a more sustainable relationship with the DNO and the charge supplier to really sort of push it forward quickly.
Before I came onto this, and part of the reason I was completely chaotic, there was an overrunning OZEV workshop, which was talking about this very thing. And I think I need to send you the names of the guys because you guys would be perfect to influence that whole thing. So anyway,
so something that I do speak to them, and something that I've said, and we are looking at, because our chargers are within our fence line and secure for our fleet. We're talking about installing chargers in our depot car parks that could be open to the public in the daytime, and then utilised by our fleet in the evening. So again, would be rapidly expanding the public charging network, but we would want some help with that. We want more help to really sort of push it forward.
Yeah, excellent. John, do we have some questions from the because we're hogging Olly?
You hog Olly all you like, but now we have got some questions actually. One is really interesting from Nigel Boyle, and he asks if DPD UK is autonomous, or do you have a global approach to this? So, for instance, in France and other countries of operation, are you all moving in this direction to have zero emission vehicles?
We are, European wide. We're owned by La Poste, so French Postal Service. And our Vision 25 in the UK, we sometimes, as we do, because there's that stretch of water between mainland Europe and the UK, it usually gets a little bit different, doesn't it? And we've rebranded it as our 25 Vision, but the group initiative is to deliver 225 towns and cities across Europe, low emissions, I will say, because predominantly in the UK, we're 100% electric. We want to go the electric route. Some of our counterparts, colleagues in Europe, are looking at low emissions more as a transition, but that's their choice. We're going fully electric. That's where we want to go.
Perfect. Good. Mo Anderson, who in the chat box, I've just seen it, questions come up about when drivers home charge. You say that the charging infrastructure is jointly funded and grant funded between yourselves and OLEV or OZEV, but do the drivers get reimbursed for the electricity they use?
So the charger as well is their own. So we've paid for it, but it's theirs to keep.
Right.
We don't. It's not owned by DPD. It's theirs. The structure of how we calculate earnings for our service providers incorporates diesel or electric. You know, so they pay it, but it's all calculated in there. And I have to say that they are the best in the business. They are paid the best in the business, and our business monitors that really closely to ensure they are earning the money that they should do. You know, should be.
Yeah. No, quite right. I mean, you seem to have this one nailed. And somebody in the chat box was asking if you actually go out and do leadership type seminars and workshops to help to promote not DPD necessarily, but your journey. You do that sort of stuff, that engagement, that community stuff.
We do talk, and you know, the more and more I've been in this position over the last 12 months, you know, people do ask, you know, and look, I think the word in that fourth box is leader.
Yeah.
And that means that we're leading the way, but we want people to follow. You know, we've all got, well, most of us have children and family, and you start thinking as a early 40s, that's my age bracket. You know, you think, what's my kid going to be like? You know, when they're 40, what's the world going to be like? And I know you talked about greenwashing and all of that, but we generally want to make this place better for the next generation. I know that might sound a little bit cheesy, but that's what DPD is about, and that's why we've moved to sustainability and really pushing forward at a rate of knots.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I often get my cheese delivered by DPD. Toby Hiles has asked a question about booking a bay for charging. So you guys are going to need to graze, to have opportunity charging. Do you think that there is a need for being able to book a bay so that you can go in, rock up, plug in without any delays?
I think there's a need, because you don't, in a petrol pump, someone's gone within 5 minutes. You don't need to book a bay. And one thing that I'd love, because hopefully you've all had the great experience of having a DPD delivery, and you get your 1 hour slot, and our optimization for the routes is just second to none. And you could book, in my mind, a slot that would incorporate your tea break as the driver. You can plug in, sit there, charge up, and you're done. Hopefully with a rapid charger. And we do talk to councils, Highways England, about where we would think these chargers would be best placed, especially in places like central London. Let's face it, the more and more fleets that transition to EV, we need a solution like that for fleets.
It's fair to say that your vans are no stranger to my household, and I'm really sad, but every time an EV rocks up, I actually get really excited, chat to the driver. And there was a driver here a couple of weeks ago, and I asked him directly, do you enjoy driving your EV? He said, I would never, ever go back. Best thing I've done in my career.
Yeah.
Can't say more than that, can you really?
No. And in a way that says something about the range anxiety piece that you were talking about as well. You know, and that's the way we've rolled out. We've looked at the low-hanging fruit routes that are within range. They don't need to typically charge en route, so it's very easy for them to complete their day without that concern.
It's interesting. Ian Miller's just talked about allowing customers to offer their charging infrastructure to DPD drivers at their home over their lunch break. So interesting notion.
There is a concept, I forgot the name of it, that sort of charging share, you know, not just for drivers, obviously, or other members of the public that can sort of rent your driveway for 30 minutes and top up. Yeah. There's talk about that. Interesting concept. Interesting concept.
Superb work that you're doing, Ollie. I think we have. Can I
just comment on you mentioned driving just a minute ago and all the drivers, and so when I'm looking at the driver population, they're typically male, typically under 50, and obviously that is an at-risk area in terms of mental health. Have you quantified or got feedback on the actual benefit of just the simplicity and the value of driving an electric vehicle?
We run you know, questionnaires and polls to find out what we're you know, the benefits and the challenges as well, Paul. And also as a business, we trained hundreds of people last year in mental health as well. So we have people in each department that can help with that as well, which is a great step forward. It may be not a sustainability piece, but definitely a corporate social responsibility piece, you know, towards the well-being of our teams.
I was just wondering if there was a measurable impact on the drivers of electric vehicles, that it improved because of the simplicity of driving an electric vehicle versus driving an ICE vehicle.
There's definitely positivity. You know, John just mentioned members of the public go up to our drivers, obviously social distancing in this day and age, but you know, so they just think it's amazing how cool it is. Even especially like something like a Paxter, which is like a four-wheel quad vehicle that you wouldn't see, you know, knocking about the street. They're like, whoa, what's this? You know, what's that like to drive? And it's great, the engagement and positivity. I think everyone, or most people, you know that there's a journey to be on and to be part of it, and it's all very positive.
Paul, I think it's potentially quite hard to measure the mental health for the drivers, but I certainly know from anecdotally from my experience, and I'm sure Ollie will agree with this here, in terms of driving an EV in this what is a stressful environment for delivery drivers. It's a bloody hard job to do. You know, there's time pressures. There's a lot of drops to make in a day. When you take away the gear stick and the noise and the aggressive driving and the clutch control and everything else, that's one significant piece of their day. They don't got to worry about it anymore because it's an easy thing to drive, and certainly a lot of the subcontractor drivers that we had in my old world. In fact, one of them, we sort of cured an injury because he hurt himself playing football and had a bad knee, but was forever complaining about it because his foot on the clutch all day long. And after 6 months or so driving an EV and not using that left leg for driving, you know, it became far less of an issue. I think just generally it's a far better, smoother environment for not just us drivers as consumers, but also for delivery drivers. It takes away a lot of stress because it's one less major thing to worry about.
The automatic, you know, really helps, you know, with them. That's like the major benefit that they love, you know.
And they've all got air conditioning as well.
Yes. Yeah.
All electric vehicles, just I haven't found one yet that doesn't. So there's another good reason.
Yes. Precondition as well. So great stuff there, Ollie. Some really good points there. Although we will still need to have a chat offline about your fleet. We need to sort you out some Renault. But please do come back later, as our mailroom is very busy and we processed over 1 million in the last year. No need to even have a fleet. So I'm sure on that basis you will have more questions for later on.
Excellent, thank you.
But now it's time, well, it's a little bit late, but it's time for our 1 o'clock news with Sarah Sloman.
Yes, back.
Hey!
Being very serious. This lunchtime on Breaking News. Energy news first. Indeed, earlier this month, South Korea signed a $43 billion deal for the world's largest offshore wind farm, set to create upwards of 5,000 jobs and sustain inherent energy challenges. Since South Korea imports coal to support 40% of its electricity, the wind farm will have a maximum capacity of 8.2 gigawatts and is said to be the equivalent of 6 nuclear power stations. Cycling, e-biking and walking can help tackle the climate crisis. Mystery solved there then. According to the University of Oxford, our findings suggest that even if not all car trips are substituted by bicycle trips, the potential for decreasing emissions is huge. Lead researcher Dr. Christian Brand said, "We found that switching just 1 trip per day to cycling reduces their carbon footprint of 0.5 tonnes over the year." Wow. The government powers up electric vehicle revolution with £20 million charge point boost. And if you haven't heard this already, what rock have you been hiding under? But Transport Secretary announced the funding to increase the number of charge points from an estimated some to approximately loads, and local authorities are being urged to take advantage of the cash injection. This is to boost the on-street charge points across the UK, and Grant Shapps announced that funding for the on-street residential charge point scheme, otherwise known as ORCS, will be powered by the Eye of Sauron in Mordor, and more than 140 local authority projects have benefited from it already. Reports suggest that we need a lot more hands on deck on the infrastructure side of things, and indeed need to stop complaining and start doing. And I have loved being part of the energy and infrastructure team at Anstey, and the time has come for me to turn my hand to a future fleet interoperability piece with a company who I know well and love deeply, to be on hand to help tackle and support businesses as they navigate through the often difficult pathway of policy, planning and procurement. I cannot contain my excitement any longer. I will be joining Dan Martin, Anthony Piggott, Simon Tate and the whole team at Elmtronics as their head of future mobility partnerships this time next month. So this huge smile will be on me for some time to come. And finally, in local cat news, Mrs. Jones's driveway has been blocked again by an iPace attempting to charge on a 3-pin plug socket trails across her pavement. Thank goodness for the news that more people will be sharing proper charges whilst we all collaborate together to get this kit in the ground on eligible homes, motorway networks, fleet depots and destinations everywhere. So in the meantime, it's back to the studio for more insightful knowledge sharing. But first, Paul, do you think the funding goes quite far enough?
I always feel sorry for anyone who presents after Sarah.
Well, well, that's very good, Sarah. I completely agree that the charging infrastructure actually doesn't answer the question, particularly on vans. Van infrastructure needs to be thought of extensively, separately to the car infrastructure, and budgets need to be secured to separate that charging.
Surely we need to be clear in the streets to allow those essential journeys to be made by delivery drivers and fleet vehicles.
Completely. Right.
End this charade. Can I just point out that we are joined by Adrian Felton from Swarco, who are specialising in e-bus and e-truck charging facilities and infrastructure for the UK, which will indeed deal with vans. Marvellous. So between Sarah and I, we've got it nailed. And thank you.
Got many things nailed, John.
It's now time to welcome Richard Grigsby from Icne Cycles, Electric Assist Cargo Bikes, for something a little bit different. Welcome to the EV Cafe, Richard.
Thank you. I'm just trying to get my video running. Oh, here we go. Perfect. Thank you very much. Thanks very much. Thanks to Sarah for inviting me to start off with, but thanks to the rest of the EV Cafe team. Sorry, I haven't got one of your mugs yet. I've got one of my own. So with our Icne crest, our new logo. So Sarah gave me a bit of a rundown. I've just got to talk a little bit about myself, but I'm going to try to blast through that because it's not really part of it. So my name is Richard Grigsby. I'm the director of Icne Cycles. So we make electric assist cargo trikes in Wiltshire, just south of Trowbridge. We're just getting to move to a 3 to 4 times bigger unit in Westbury. So moving into a brand new unit in Westbury, which is very exciting. But although I'm here to talk about electric assist cargo bikes, I am a big electric vehicle fan. I was working out, I've probably done about 85,000 miles over the last 6 years, solitary driving electric vehicles. I'm on my 3rd one, and every time I get in it, it's a novelty. So I absolutely love them. So I'm not just completely polarized into cycling. So I've been in the bicycle trade for over 30 years now, trying to make a difference. I started off my working life as an engineer, had a career change at 30, went back to uni, tried to follow my passion as a triathlete. I was also a cycle racer. I used to race recumbents as well, which was hilarious. And there's a big future, I think, in lightweight, fully fared vehicles that are electric assist, of course. I ended up not doing any of that stuff. I ended up running a bike shop with a good friend, Gary Cooper, in Bath, so Avon Valley Cyclery, which is still there. And way back, over 25 years ago, we started selling electric bikes. So we've always, tried doing our bit, but those bikes then were pretty terrible. I mean, they were heavy. They used to burst into flames quite often. You could also open the throttle when you weren't on the bike, so the thing would actually do like an impromptu wheelie. So they were quite dangerous as well. And then we persevered with them, but we also sold bikes imported by Yamaha, which were superb. They had fantastic motors, Japanese motors. But then Yamaha turned around and said, well, there's not enough demand in Europe for us to carry on supplying you with these bikes. So we were just like, oh, really? Is that the thing? So, you know, we have tried, but maybe we were slightly ahead of the curve. There is obviously a huge latent demand out there still for electric bicycles, but I think back in those days, that latent demand was basically dormant. I mean, the sort of customers we have will be people that had a lot of health issues so that they physically couldn't ride a bike, or they wanted to go up and down the hills to university from the bottom of Bath to the top, and those hills are all a mile long, they're 1 in 5. Not good if you want to do it multiple times and still be fit by the time you get to the top there. So we did sell a few, but it was very, very low. Running a bike shop's not easy. We always try different things. We used to have our own design bikes. We started foldingbikes.co.uk to help people buy bikes, and we sold over 20 brands of folding bikes at one stage. We also started a company called Cycle Scheme. So this was to enable employees to buy a tax-free bike through their employer. So without funding, we took that from nothing to a raging monster in 5 years. We won the Fast Track 100. We were the first cycle industry business to enter that, and we were the fastest growing private industry over 3 years in the UK. So winning that, it gave us a platform to sell the Cycle Scheme, and I had freedom for a few years, and then of course you get to the point where you get fed up with staring at the clouds, you get fed up with doing topiary in the garden. So I got sort of encouraged to come back into the cycle business, and this was involved with funding the materials for the guys to start making electric assist cargo trikes. And that's what I'm involved with now with Icne Cycles. It's been absolutely fascinating because I've gone back down and I've pretty much built a whole trike myself now. I'm not allowed to actually own one particular trike because it would have my name on and it would probably go wrong, but I've built pretty much every aspect of it. So I've been involved with bending material, I've been involved with all of the coach building, all of the mechanical assembly, and it's incredible what goes into these bikes. I don't know whether I can share my screen at all to show you one. Thought it'd be relevant. Can you guys see that?
No.
No, okay, all right, that didn't work then. Okay, that's fine. All of our bikes can be seen on icnecycles.co.uk. Our main clients at the moment are last mile delivery couriers. So we've spent a lot of time working with Zedify, who are based in 7 cities around the UK. And originally when we started with them several years ago, they sent us a great long email basically asking us to make all of these amendments. And of course, when you first look at that, you think, oh, really? Do we have to do all that? But when we took a second look, we were able to go through every one and do this for them. So we've like co-developed our bikes into something that is compatible with last mile couriers. So they're fit for everyday deliveries. They've got an all-day battery in them. And although they still do get smashed around a lot, we are still developing our models in order to make them more courier proof, which is a really hard task because these bikes are out in the cities 8 hours a day and they have a very tough job to do, as I'm sure a lot of you know.
Speaking of tough jobs, Richard, you've probably got a couple of minutes left.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so we work with Zedify. They're in partnership with FedEx, so we're just starting to do a lot of stuff in FedEx down in southeast London, in Bermondsey, where they've got a fleet of about 10 of our vehicles. We also supply to Pedal and Post in Oxford. I know they carry up to about 300 kilos of vegetables in some of our bikes, which is like a big load. But we're only about the size of about a half a small van. But our bikes have to fit into the envelope of an e-bike, essentially. So they share pedestrianised spaces, they share cycle lanes. So we think ours are about as big as you want to go at the moment anyway. We've got other people delivering artisan bread in Exeter, organic veg in Glasgow. we're not huge. We hope to be. We are scalable. We won a tender for Anpost in Southern Ireland to supply them with bikes for the whole of that country. But that hasn't gone anywhere yet, which is difficult for us. We've also had Royal Mail come round to visit us. They liked our product, but nothing has actually happened with that yet as well. So again, there's this huge latent demand. I think the future is really bright. We are catching Europe up in places, and yeah, we want to be part of this future picture. I think that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Richard. So over to the team for some questions before we introduce our final guests for today. John, do we have anything in the mailroom for Richard? Is he on mute? He's on...
What a donut.
We've done 27 episodes, John.
It's usually me.
Honestly, I'm sorry. What can I say? Richard, rude question. What are we talking about in terms of pounds, shillings and pence for one of your vehicles, for one of your bikes?
Okay, so one of our cargo bikes with the box on the back, with the motor, we've got with all of the security locking as well. It's about £10,500, including VAT.
Okay.
Sorry, plus VAT.
So
yeah,
10.5
grand.
So it's quite an investment then.
It is quite an investment. Yes, we do work with a couple of different leasing companies. And historically, it's been a problem because obviously the people that want to get involved with green with green transport aren't always the people that are lavish with money. You know, they don't tend to. They're coming from the background, you know, where they are just doing whatever's necessary. So it's really difficult for those people to get funding. We also make another couple of models. We have a wheelchair bike that carries a wheelchair, and we also have a pickup trike, and that one's cheaper because it doesn't have the box on the back. So
interesting. The leasing is really interesting. Emily Garnett is asking about standards for charging for e-bikes and cargo bikes. What are the standards? Do they exist?
Well, our bikes have to conform to just a normal electric bicycle restrictions. Charging wise, I don't know what standards are around, but we are limited to 250 watts average power, which of course is a really pathetic amount of power assisting. But a lot of these motors actually run higher than that for the initial few minutes until they're warmed up. Also, the motors we use have an incredible amount of torque. I mean, our motors have 120 Newton meters of torque, which is about the same as a Honda Goldwing. So, you know, they are very powerful. They're really good for pulling away. You know, I don't need to tell, you know, the EV guys how good electric motors are for, you know, for going from zero with all the torque. But yeah, they are amazing. But yeah, essentially, we're still our envelope is like it's an electric bicycle.
Mm. And Andrew Stendhal asks, will the EV bike adopt an interchangeable battery? Presumably yours is.
Yes, at the moment we use the German Green Pack battery, which is a large battery that can go in and out. We have a waterproof box on the front of our bikes. It's very accessible, so that can go in and out and be swapped over and changed. Some people who run large rounds in London will carry a spare battery in the back, depending on your terrain and your load. I mean, these batteries will do maybe up to 50 miles. So, you know, they are extremely good, extremely powerful, but that seems to be like the standard at the moment now.
Right. And the best way for people to get in touch with you, Richard, should they be interested in finding out more, what's the best way?
Yes, I mean, just go straight onto our website, which is icnecycles.co.uk, and we've got an inquiries line on there.
And Icne is I-C-E-N-I, yes?
It is, yes.
Perfect. Good.
Written on his t-shirt.
And his cup.
My eyes aren't that good. Hang on. Oh yeah, so it is. Beautifully modelled. Thank you kindly.
There we go.
Yeah. We need to sort one of these out, Richard, I think.
I know, I'd love one.
So thanks again, Richard. We will see you again in about 15 minutes or so for the last round of Q&A, because now it's time to welcome our final guest on for the show, Mr. Adrian Felton. So welcome to the EV Cafe, Adrian.
Good afternoon, everyone. Not quite sure how well this is working. I've ventured out of the house for one of the very rare times today to try and get some peace and quiet from dogs barking, actually from DPD delivery. So Ollie, thanks for that. You keep my dogs continually entertained throughout the day. So thank you very much for the invite. My name's Adrian Felton. I'm the National Strategic Account Manager for eBus and eTruck with Schwarco Smart Charging Solutions. And I'm going to just try and preamble for 5 minutes or maybe even 4.5 through the bus industry and some of its challenges. So I'm going to try and share my screen and hopefully not bore you too much, but let's see where we end up. If you can let me know whether you can see that.
Just coming through now, Adrian.
Excellent. I've even made the effort to get dressed properly today as well, which is something that we don't usually do working from home, but there we go.
Can you make that into presenter view?
Yeah, is that okay? Good
That's
now?
it, perfect, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go a little bit left field here today, first and foremost. I mean, we're talking about the bus industry here today, and we're going to talk about electrification of it, but I think it's important to understand as a group of people that there are some challenges in the bus industry today. You know, ridership is down year on year. We see a continuing decline in ridership, which means there is an inability for operators to invest, which means if they can't invest, then actually we can't start to see the investment in those more expensive zero emission technologies. And actually, because that investment's not there, then it makes it very difficult for OEMs to reduce the prices, because economies of scale usually dictate the pricing. And the pictures there are just a visual that back in the day, you know, the streets were empty. Lots of people used public transport. Everyone used the bus. Everyone knew when it came. And if we fast forward to the scene on the right, then of course, that's where we are today. Congestion. Everyone has their own personal bubble. And actually, you know, whether that's an EV car or whether it's an ICE car, it's still sat in the same traffic jam. So actually getting everybody onto a much bigger EV vehicle would be better for all of us. So bus charging, there's quite a lot of concepts out there, and I'm sure some of you will remember this, VHS versus Betamax, you know, and ultimately the best one didn't win. And I think there's quite a risk of that in the market today, that there are a number of solutions for charging vehicles, but perhaps the best one isn't prevailing because it's perhaps a little bit difficult, it's a little bit more costly. But actually, if we look at VHS and Betamax, we don't use either of them now. So where are we going in the next 10 to 15 years? So in terms of Schwarco, what do? We actually provide smart charging solutions for every type of EV vehicle, from cars all the way through to the heaviest kit. And as I said today, I'm going to focus a little bit on bus, and there's some beautiful green buses there sat in a depot in Sharston. And I can tell you that on January the 9th, it was not as sunny as that, that's for certain. So we have electrified depots in Nottingham, in London in Potters Bar, Manchester in Sharston, London in Rainham, and Barking as well. And we are now gathering a huge amount of experience in terms of electrifying depots. But what do we need to do? Because, you know, every one of us can just put some AC chargers into a depot. We can put CHAdeMO plugged. We can isolate them. We can make them specific to a vehicle. But that's not going to work. That's not going to help us to move and drive forward our industry and our agenda. So I think it comes back to the VHS versus Betamax in a little bit of a sort of analogy. That if we look at purchasing videos and music today, it's so easy, isn't it? We've got it on our phone. We can go and get it instantly. It's easy to use. It's open to all. It's accessible. It's reliable. I've never failed to download a YouTube video when I want one, or something from Spotify. It's standardized. We can all use it. And actually, it'll be future-proof moving forward. And that's what we need from our heavy-duty vehicle charging industry. That's where we need to be. So what's the progress to date for us? We've been focusing on reliability to date, and that is where our short to medium term focus is. Because we realise that for fleet operators, anything from 3.5 tonnes above, heavy duty buses, trucks, that they need to get those vehicles to go out the following morning. I'm not trying to belittle a charger in a Tesco or an Aldi, but if that fails, someone will just move on to the next supermarket to charge their car. If you have 35 buses that have to meet that vehicle requirement the following day, if you have a bus that doesn't meet it, you'll be certainly in front of the Transport Commissioner sooner rather than later. So it really is important. We've got over 55 technicians now UK-wide, and 11 of those are level 3. They are absolutely focused on solving those in-depth problems. We're also looking to start to see how we can get our technicians a little bit more aligned with the bus and truck industry. Earlier start times, weekends, red flags on call lines and help centre lines where we can actually tell that it's a bus depot that's got a problem. And we also provide a number of different on-site reactive maintenance packages, and we can actually start to develop other staff on site. We give training, and we want to make this simple for everyone. We want to get people to be able to use it without any issues. All of our technicians drive EVs, so either Nissan Leafs, BMW i3s, there is a couple of Konas on there now. And what that allows us to do is when our technicians are out maintaining charge points, we can actually test them, which is very important, of course. So where does the future take us? It's got to be easier, as we've said. I have to tell you this. Wandering around a depot in the freezing cold in January at 11:30 at night, trailing plugs across a damp, wet, sleety bus depot, trying to find the hole to plug them into in the dark is not a wonderful experience. So it has to be easier. And there are a number of solutions we can start to talk about. Hub charging with smaller feeder pillars that are lit, that give us that space that we need. Fully autonomous depot and en route charging via pantograph. So there's no need to plug the vehicle in at all. You park it in its bay, apply the handbrake, and away it goes. Software integration is going to be a key. We need to have smart balancing and load management at depots. We've been working with developing a tool with one of our customers where we can actually look at the load they have in the depot, and we can start to stack vehicles in a charging stack so that we don't exceed that demanded level. It'll be interesting to see where EV charging in the heavy industry fits in with digitalization and autonomy. And we must have a heavy duty standardization. In the heavy duty arena at the moment, the one message that keeps coming through is they want a touchless charging system. They don't want RFID tags. They don't want cards. They don't want to have to input any data. They want to plug the charger in and go. But if we're to move towards that, the heavy duty industry needs to agree some standards. And having spent a very short amount of time in that space, it's become very evident that certain OEMs have a very different interpretation of what those standards are. So as an industry, we need to come together. You want to be able to plug your car into one of our bus chargers when the depot's empty in the day. Coming back to Olly, him talking about his chargers that are on the car park. It'd be great if we could plug any truck or any bus into them. And for us to be able to do that, we've got to collaborate. As a group of people, we've got to come together and make this work. So that really is me. It's probably a little bit of a bus industry rant more than a presentation of what we do. But I think it shows that as a business, we are committed to engaging with the industry and helping to drive it forward.
Thank you very much, Adrian. So over to the panel. We've got any questions for Adrian? Sarah, you look...
Oh, I'm on mute. I'm always on mute. I'm so sorry.
We find it better that way.
That was uncalled for.
That's aggressive there, John.
What people don't see is this behind the scenes pretty relentless banter that we always have. I'm sorry. Adrian, it's wonderful to meet you properly, and my heart went out when you described the sleety bus depot with trading cables. And if you have had a chance, I'm sure you have, to go to Holland and see what they're doing, particularly with the pantograph connector, it just removes that. And we spoke to drivers there only a couple of years ago who really report that same thing that actually DPD was saying earlier, is once they've tried it, that's it, they're hooked, that's all they want to do. So I'm wondering, how can we bridge that gap? Is it an injection of private investment that we need? Do we need to attract investors to the UK to help us get this infrastructure set up?
I think, Sarah, the bus industry has been very well funded in the UK. First and foremost, we should say that in terms of government funding, green bus funding rounds, etc., have been very good. My previous role, so in a previous life, I was 21 years with an OEM, and as part of that, I was responsible for the only pantograph projects in the UK and was very heavily involved with pantograph in Europe.
That's amazing.
I think the problem is that we have aging infrastructure in the UK. And certainly when you look at London and some of the services that pass under the road surface, it is very tricky. And actually, it is a lot of the time put into the too difficult box. And I think we need to start thinking in a different way now, and to try and promote that we've done the easy bit now. Those routes that are shorter, that can be served with depot charged vehicles, are absolutely fine. And there is more of those that will happen. But as we move to mass rollout of EV bus fleets, we're going to have en route charging. And we're also going to have pantographs back at depot, because these vehicles are parked so tightly together in the evenings that it's almost going to become impossible. And that, coupled with a desire to move towards autonomy, I hate to say it, get rid of the shunter in the yard, will hopefully drive us in the right direction.
I really think that private injection of cash could be a good thing, particularly if you think about integrating battery storage and therefore, vastly reducing the need for that connection. Thank you, Adrian. That was really great.
Thank you.
Can I just ask, are you excited to see the arrival of Arrival? Oh, sorry, I didn't see your hand. Talk to the hand, because the face ain't listening.
Am I to answer that, or?
Go, Adrian, go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anyone that's coming into the EV bus space, it is absolutely thrilling to see people developing. And I think certainly with the Arrival product, it's bespoke. It's designed to be an EV rather than an ICE that's being converted to an EV. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how they develop.
I wonder if they'll bring some of this different charging. Sorry, I'll shut up. Just having a chat with you, Adrian. Sorry.
No, go for it, Paul. Go.
No, I'm done.
No, I'm not speaking to him now.
Okay, I'll start again. Have you seen any specialist type of charging coming from them? Have they talked about how you will charge their vehicles, or is that still to be found out?
Not yet. No. I mean, we've had very limited engagement with them. We have had engagement, but no is the answer to that, Paul.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Over to you, John.
Adrian, I have a question about ridership, because you spoke eloquently about congestion, which is one of the major issues that I've got with the roads. That doesn't matter whether you drive ICE or EV. If we've got too many vehicles on the roads, we're never going to get any decent transport working properly and effectively. So getting ridership of buses to increase is really key to this. And with COVID and people's fear of being in that public space, we've got a mountain to climb just to get people back onto public transport. How do you see us being able to reassure people that the bus is not only a good long-term bet, but actually short-term, it's okay too?
I think that's a very difficult question, John. I mean, I have used the bus recently, and I can only say that all of the bus companies that are out there, the cleaning regimes that they are currently employing, the social distancing that they're currently employing on the buses, and some of the innovative schemes to keep people safe during COVID has to be absolutely commended. And, a lot of these bus companies are reaching out and providing free buses to run vaccination shuttles, various things like that. The bus industry is absolutely doing its best, and I think we have to support it. And getting people to get them out of the car, it's not necessarily getting them out of the car, but getting them out of the car in the right place. So think of it like the last mile journey. You know, how many of you look for park and ride sites when you go to a city? Use them. They are fantastic, and you will not sit in the traffic into the city, and you won't have to run around for an hour and a half trying to find a parking space. So yeah, I think the best thing is to say, let's just use it. It's good, it's clean, it's safe, and it could get even better with our support.
I think Ian Muller makes a very good point. He says, from the 21st of June, launch pub buses. People will definitely get on them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant idea.
Superb. Thanks, Adrian.
Collared that one.
So, yeah, thanks for that, Adrian. Some really important considerations there for the future, I think. I really enjoyed that. Before we go to the mailroom with John, I'd just like to invite the previous special guest to come back onto the show, and then we can kind of just use that as an opportunity for the last round of mailroom and questions and answers. So if you've got any more questions from any of the other special guests, then please stick that in the Q&A tab. Over to you, John.
Right. Okay. So let's start, Johnny, with a question for you that you trailed about 2 hours ago. Nigel Boyle has asked, what's the highest mileage, lowest cost EV? So I suspect that with the greatest range, what's the lowest cost EV, if that's not an oxymoron? Talking of moron, here's Johnny.
Oh,
well, funny you should ask that, John, because it just so happened to be the Renault Zoe that number one there.
Golly.
There's an interesting link on Next Green Car, which I can put in the chat box, and it measures the price versus range. So it compares all the vehicles' price versus range. So it measures the WLTP number with the on-the-road price, and then gives you the price per mile of range. So actually, joint first is the City Go E and the Renault Zoe, both at £108 per mile of range. So it's good little tool, and I'll put that link into the chat box. There's your answer for you, Nigel.
Just say
a WLTP figure, was it? Way less than planned. Is that right?
It's not quite. It's not NEDC where it's not even distinctly close.
Yeah. But does it consider the lease cost?
This is on outright purchase example, so on the road. But lease cost, yeah, I don't know if there's a comparison there. But Paul, over to you, mate.
Well, it's probably pretty close, actually. We should produce that, shouldn't we? Really?
I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
Right.
John Lyons makes a point, I think, more than asks a question, and he says, how often do you go to the petrol station, the fuel tank, put 20 quid's worth in, which a lot of us do, and you're quite happy to go away with £20 of fuel in your vehicle. Now, £20 worth of electricity will get you an awful long way, an awful lot further, and we don't really stop to compare like for like. We don't say that 20 quid spent on EV is actually better than 20 quid spent on something you can only burn once. Would you agree?
Don't ask that.
Dear Lord above. Come on, people. I know it's 20 till 2, but let's have a bit of enthusiasm.
Well, I agree completely. I mean, the comparison is really easy. You're going to burn diesel and you know, for the same amount of mileage, you'll burn 300 quid's worth of diesel to £100 worth of electricity, which could actually be renewable. It's a no-brainer, right?
It is a no-brainer. I suppose that was why the question was moot, because we know the answer.
Yeah, for 20 quid, that probably gets you maybe 600 miles. And that's just on a sort of standard tariff across, you know, in the UK.
Yeah.
Because if you go for a cheaper tariff, you're going to get maybe 2/3 more. So,
yeah, a couple of pence a mile, job done. Right, let's go on to Sumia Ayadi. Now, Sumia's in Morocco. I know this for a fact because she said up front she was from Morocco. And she asks about renewable energy. Adrian, as a charging specialist, do you consider renewable energy sources when you're putting in charging solutions?
So I can't speak from the experience at Swarco, but certainly with the previous projects that I've been involved in, very much so. So back when we looked at the Harrogate all-electric bus town project, that was done with renewable energy, and I believe that that's still on a renewable tariff. One of the clever things we actually looked at with that project was whether we could link a specific wind turbine with the power for that actual business, but we couldn't at the time. There's also a lot around battery storage, as Sarah said, and solar PV canopies with projects, and there's a number of park and ride opportunities now that are further out of the towns and cities that have a restricted grid capacity. And we are certainly looking to try to build that kind of project in the future. But yeah, green energy where possible. One of the incentives for that, back to the original low emission bus scheme, was that you got extra funding for the bus and infrastructure if you actually used renewable energy.
Right. Excuse me.
Have a go at that.
Sam.
Just to answer Sumia's question as well, is that as an example, a GridServe electric forecourt has a 10 megawatts solar farm connected to it 44 miles down the road by virtue of a power purchase agreement. So we can sleeve energy from the sun effectively into our forecourts. So that is very much a net zero solution on day one. So it's really important to understand where all this energy comes from. But yeah, it's a good question, because we've all got to be cognizant of the fact that, you know, this whole supply chain isn't necessarily always fully green, and we need to understand where the energy is coming from at all times.
And just to make some sense of that, if you use energy from the national grid, you might as well be driving a Toyota Prius as driving an EV, because of the emissions that are created in generating that energy. Renewable energy is the only way to truly achieve zero emission motoring. So renewables all the way. Right, Ian Muller has asked, and again, I think it's one for Adrian, should some of the £950 million funding for high-powered charging be redirected for buses?
I'm not quite sure really whether it should, or whether we should all get in the same room and talk about how we can utilize the same chargers. So there's been a lot of funding for charging infrastructure that's been put in place in the past, and I won't talk about the local authority in case, but we were looking at 2 refuse collection vehicles, and they needed higher voltage chargers. The authority in talking to us had identified that they purchased 250 kilowatt chargers, but actually the voltages weren't right, so they couldn't charge the vehicle. So a bit of joined up thinking, actually. We might not have to redirect the funding, but just make sure that we can all use the same equipment. Mm-hmm. That would be really smart, wouldn't it? Cars in the daytime, buses and trucks in the evening.
Or at the very least, Adrian, presumably commercial HGV type traffic with high voltage stuff, and then more things for the smaller vans and cars thereafter, right?
Yeah, or even, you know, shared. I mean, the higher voltage stuff can charge like commercials and cars, but the other way around, it doesn't work. So ultimately, you know, why would you have all that investment in a bus depot, which is laying empty all day? Why can't taxis, lighter vans, the DPD guys that are taking their break at lunchtime, go and use those facilities? You know, it's shared infrastructure, and it gives much better payback from the investment from government, really. But it's about...
Sorry, Adrian, is that actually the case when you say a bus depot? Is it typically empty during the day or not? Because I would have thought that there'd be a sort of constant flow of electric buses being on charge during the day as well, on a rotational basis.
Yeah, but if you looked at, say, a PVR of 18, peak vehicle requirement of 18 for the route, at any one time, you know, maximum, you'd only probably have 8 of those back in. So you'd probably have 10 chargers available. And if you look at siting them in a particular location, you could certainly get, you know, 2 or 4 commercial vehicles or open use chargers back on that site. So much better investment.
Yeah, makes sense.
Charlotte, I have a little suggestion here, and it's come from Toby Hiles. And Toby has suggested that you and Adrian should have a chat, because Adrian does lots of stuff with electric buses. And of course, passengers on electric buses are all making the same contribution as somebody who gets into another electric vehicle. So maybe you could spread your word wider by thanking those people on electric buses. What do you reckon?
I have thought about that actually, because I think a few months ago I went and visited the bus depot near where I live, and I thanked some electric vehicle drivers there because they also have some electric vehicles, and that's also on my YouTube channel. And I'm thinking that I'm also going to make, obviously when COVID's over and I'm back to school, because I do take the bus to school, and like say I can make a personalized EV thank you card that's for bus drivers, and I've already thought about that. So yeah, I'm super excited. I do want to make an EV thank you card for bus drivers, because when I was at National Express, National Express, and I was talking to a bus driver that was driving an electric bus. He was super excited about it, and he was like, oh yeah, like this is so much more enjoyable to drive. And I also had a little ride on one, and they're super nice. And yeah, definitely have thought about giving them like a specific EV thank you card.
Brilliant. Excellent. What's really interesting is that every single person we've had on today who's talked about driving an electric vehicle says how super excited they are and how great they are to drive. That's fantastic. So, you know, we're getting real consistency of message here. Our task now is to get out to as many people as we can to help them understand that. And you're a brilliant part of that messaging. So well done. Adrian.
Yes.
Are you there, dear?
Yeah.
Coventry is going to be an all-electric bus city by 2025.
Yes.
How big a role do you think local councils will play in the electrification of buses? Is it them, or is it the operators that are key to the success of the electric bus, or a combination?
I think it's a combination, John, and without getting into a really difficult topic in this event, which is you know, back to sort of franchising of bus routes from private operators, then I think we should take the sensible middle ground and say that, yeah, it's going to be a combination of both. Like, public transport needs everyone for it to be able to work. I think if you look at bus networks, as you push out into some of the more difficult routes, there's going to be en route charging. What percentage that will be, I don't know. So that's definitely going to need government engagement and local authority engagement. But there is views from certain local authorities that they would like to have more involvement than others. And it'll be interesting to see how that bus agenda shapes itself in the next 12 to 18 months as we start to see a wonderful green recovery in the industry.
Absolutely. And Gideon Richards talks about standardization, which was a theme you spoke about quite eloquently. And he talks about needing full life costs as part of the standards and certification. And I suppose we've got Olly here as well. Olly, how do we get that standardization when we've got different people, different organizations doing different things? You're a commercial user of a vast number of electric vehicles. Are you part of that move towards standardization and certification?
Yeah, definitely, John. And look, we engage with government bodies and lobbyists to really sort of push standardization as well. So yeah, totally on board with that.
Yeah, because Adrian, you were talking to a number of trade organizations over the last week or so about how you can help to get those standards in place for the bus industry. Is that a hard thing to do, to get everybody pulling in the same direction?
It can be incredibly easy, or it can be incredibly hard. It just depends which way the wind is blowing, I guess, on the day. Now, look, there's a number of different bodies in the UK that are really, really focused on this. Low CVP have been instrumental, certainly in the bus industry, or ZEMO as they're now called. Sorry, I should treat them with their new name. They've been instrumental in sort of driving the bus and commercial vehicle agenda forward, and we'll continue to work with them. What we've got to do is make it easy for commercial operators, because if you know, the likes of Olly's fleet, if each of their driver has got to enter a mileage, vehicle identification number, state of charge, and then tap an RFID tag before they start to charge. That's incredibly difficult. We need to agree some heavy duty standards in terms of communication protocols of what information may be required, and then try and drive that forward together. Fully touchless systems, that's what we want.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul Barnfather asks, and again, it's a question for you, Adrian. You are popular today.
Very popular. Yeah.
Paul Barnfather's asking, will plug and charge help solve the issue of being able to plug in just anywhere?
So I'm not quite familiar with plug and charge, sorry, but I guess that's going to be a that's a new incentive, I guess, is it?
I'm not sure. So perhaps Paul, are you around? ISO 15118, and Sam's got an insight. Go, Sam.
I can answer if you like. The plug and charge is the concept really by which you plug the vehicle in, and it knows, the charger in the vehicle knows what's been connected into the Tesla supercharger network, which does the same thing. So I think the question is around greater efficiency of charging by virtue of not having to have all the complexities of RFID cards and accounts, etc. It's all set up in the background.
That is what we're looking for, but in the heavy duty arena, we know that when you're moving to EV and bus fleet and in truck fleets and commercial, that it's a huge cost compared to running an ICE. And the 15118 protocol, from what I understand, will see that information sent to a clearinghouse, which actually means that there is another party within this that's actually going to take a revenue, or there's going to be a premium or a fee, not quite sure, but that's my understanding. So really it might help, but I think having a basic set of standards where we don't need to use another clearinghouse, where we can use any provider's back office without having to go through that, would be much more efficient.
John, can I answer Varun's question?
Sam, we've got a question from Varun Agarwal, and he asks about demand increase for electricity and what's being done to make sure that we've got the right amount of energy to meet our needs as we get more and more electric vehicles. Do you have an answer?
I do, but I'm going to channel my inner Graham Cooper here, who has the best answer for this, and that is that a lot of myth busting answer this, isn't it? In terms of there's not enough energy for all these electric vehicles, when there absolutely is. So Graham wrote in an article quite recently that back in 2002 we consumed far more energy than we do now as a UK entity, and even if every single vehicle was electric tomorrow, which it wouldn't be, but even if it was, we still wouldn't consume the same amount of energy as we did back in 2002, when things were less efficient generally. So the key thing is not about how much energy we've got available, it's about how and when we use it. So although obviously local grid infrastructure and demands are still going to be a challenge, and it's not quite as simple as that, but at the same time, it's more about timing of when we charge, not about how much energy is available at any given time.
Now, what's really interesting is we've got Lorna McAteer here, and Lorna's from National Grid, and she's just said that the peak was 62 gigawatts, and it's fallen 16% since then. So actually people are using significantly less energy because we are that much more efficient. So Sam, for once, you are right, my friend.
Thanks.
Well, my mail sack is empty.
Oh,
I know.
Well, I have a quick question for Charlotte, because we've got EV bikes on the call as well, and I wondered if you'd ever stumbled across any EV bikes, much like the ones that Richard in Icne promotes, whether you'd stumbled across any of those.
I'm sure I have, but like in general, my campaign kind of focuses on electric vehicles, mainly because like electric bikes are amazing, super great, support them, but like people generally, the excuse they might have is oh yeah, well it rains in the UK a lot, or like I need to get this every day, this has to be my regular commute, and for some people bikes don't always work. And so I feel that promoting vehicles, especially electric vehicles, is a great way to highlight how it fits in with the majority of people's commute, everyday life. As much as bikes may do something similar, the campaign kind of just really focuses on electric vehicles a little bit more.
I love the fact that you're so single-minded. Do you know that?
Have a focus.
You just know what you're aiming at and you just go for it. You could try and be all things to all people and you don't. You just say, do you know what? That's my thing and I'm going to go for it. Good for you.
Brilliant.
Oh,
just a comment there, please, John. And with Charlotte, I agree with you. Most people that they want to translate what they do at the moment into the future, and that means having a roof over your head a lot of the time. But right in the city centres is where the electric cargo bikes are going to start to really flourish, because a lot of bigger vehicles just won't be allowed in, and you'll see the segregation going on. Places like Paris, for instance, where inside the périphérique, that anything goes, but then you get that sort of central third where there's a mixture of electric vans and other vans, but then right in the centre it's just going to be bicycles allowed there. So this is why the electric cargo bike manufacturers really need to preserve the sort of empathy with their design, so that they do fit into those shared areas. That's something we're really keen on maintaining as well. But I agree with what you say, that there's a few electric cargo bikes out there that look like scaled down vans, and they do have this instant appeal, but as soon as you have a roof over your head or a windscreen, you have other problems that come in, so it adds a lot of extra weight. The wind catches it. If you have a windscreen, you tend to have windscreen wipers, otherwise you can't see through the thing. So there's a lot of other issues that are created with things that seem fairly obvious to you. And I think if you're a courier jumping in and out of a vehicle, even if it's an electric van, you're probably going to get a bit wet anyway when it's raining.
what we've seen today is quite clearly that there is no single silver bullet, and that actually we all need to work together, and walking, cycling, cars, vans, lorries, buses, we're all moving in the right direction. And we need to champion what we feel in our hearts, do the right thing for us, because there's space for all of us to succeed. Yeah. There's space for all of us to make a difference. Sorry, Sarah, your hand is in the air.
I've been very patient, listening and taking notes like I always do. When I look blank, it's because I'm typing notes so we can celebrate later after the show. But I wanted to speak to you, Richard, about future transport zones and the role that local authorities are invariably going to need to play to make sure that things like electrified trikes and bikes can still utilise the road space available and have it not all given over to larger EVs, including the 3.5-ton trucks that we need DPD. So what can we do to work with the local authorities, or bi-directional communication channel, to make sure that things are being planned for the future for the better?
Yeah, I forgot to mention earlier about local authorities, because a lot of them have been taking advantage of the energy saving trust grants that have been topped up again recently. So we're seeing a little bit of that coming through to us, which is good. So they are aware of it, but we're very, a bit like Charlotte's focus on her aim. We're very focused on just producing bikes and making the best bikes that we can possible for the jobs that we have. And I think there's other people around there. I mean, we had the good news today that there's going to be a new cycling mayor in Bristol, for instance, and those are the type of people that are going to liaise in that middle ground between the actual users and the manufacturers, and then the council, so that they can introduce the correct areas to gently keep out these other vehicles, but to make sure that the people who are using shared spaces do it in the right way. The last thing we want to see is like cargo bikes that weigh over half a ton, bombing around in pedestrianised areas. It's that's not really the right way forward. They need to be nimble and friendly, I think is the way forward. That's our direction. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that one's.
But you as an individual are so vital, Richard, with all your experience of setting up the businesses in the Southwest in particular, because obviously Bristol will have the future transport zone. So anything you can do, and anything I can do, anything we can do to help you get your advice heard would be fantastic. Yes,
I'm really happy to do that, because it's again, it's all part of spreading the word, isn't it? It really is. So yeah, anything like that, I'm happy to join in with.
Right, we've got time for one more question. Don't know where the time's gone today. It's nearly 2 o'clock.
It's Zoom.
Once. Sorry?
It's zoomed.
Right, that's enough of John for today, I think.
Yeah.
Going once, going twice, going 3 times. So on that note, join our LinkedIn page. Recording will be on our YouTube tomorrow. So if you're not subscribed, get subscribed. Share it if you can on LinkedIn. Register for the next session where we'll be deep diving into energy. And thanks to everyone for their time this afternoon. Special guests, members, audience, and all of you guys. John, you always want to get the final word in, don't you?
Only want to say that we have been kicking around the idea of inviting a few people to come along and do a kind of podcasty type thing in the evening where we actually plan the next EV Cafe. So we get 4, 5, 6 people, 6 of you guys to come along and we can all just have this kind of session, but plan the next EV Cafe. Who will our guests be? What will we talk about? So it would be really interesting to get some feedback on that. If you've got anything you want to chuck it in the chat box right now, please do. Get us on LinkedIn. We've got Twitter. Contact us, reach out to us and tell us, do you want to be involved? Because we'd love to set up chats with you guys. Once a month is great, but actually, I miss you and I have no friends.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, and the chat box goes mad.
It's going to be great fun, that's for sure. And if you think this, we're so polite and tame on this bit of the show, you should see us when we're not doing that.
Oh yes, the after hours session is very different.
There's a lot of people saying they're up for it, so we'll have to make that happen, John. All right,
well,
then,
I think
everybody.
It's been a great session. Thank you, everybody. And just if you want to support, click subscribe to our channel, but also to Charlotte's as well. Evie, thank you. That is a good way of taking real action.
And Charlotte, do let us know if you get lots of contact and success, because part of what we do is to network people and to join people together. So we love hearing about success stories. So if you do get lots of support, do drop us a line and let us know. Remember your friends when you're famous.
Thank you all.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a nice rest of your week. Bye-bye now.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye, Julian's mum.